Station. This is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Station. I am ready for the event.
Lee County School District. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Lee County School District. How do you hear me?
Lee County, I have you loud and clear. Welcome to the International Space Station.
Station, this is Courtney Black from the Lee County School District. In our audience today are schools that recently participated in the 50 Years, 50 Schools Challenge, where 50 schools in our district participated in space-themed lessons to commemorate 50 years anniversary of the moon landing. Dr. Meir, we are over the moon excited to be speaking with you today. We'll now begin the question and answer portion of our presentation.
My name is Zahrarahman. I'm in 5th grade at Allen Park Elementary. My question is, what are some questions that could be answered with samples of the moon from the upcoming Artemis mission?
The moon is really the cornerstone of planetary science. Much of what we know, not only about the moon, but also about our entire solar system, was made possible through samples that were provided through the Apollo program, the previous missions to the moon. When we start the Artemis missions, we will also be gaining new samples from new areas that were not explored during Apollo. For example, the South Pole region, which is one of the targets for the Artemis mission. This site will tell us even more about some of the geologic processes on the moon for which we don't have data yet from the Apollo era. One of the things that these moon samples can also provide is knowledge about the first billions of years of the history of the Earth and the moon in our solar system. Since the Earth is more geologically active, we have lost this knowledge on the Earth, but this is still preserved on the moon. So these samples can provide us so many countless examples of data to tell us more about the formation of the solar system, the formation of our planet and other planets, and really all of these cornerstone fundamentals of planetary science.
Hi, my name is Eric Boyes, and I am in 6th grade at Three Oaks Middle. My question is, what kind of U.S. presence will building the Lunar Gateway establish on the moon, and what challenges may occur while constructing the Lunar Gateway?
Well, the Lunar Gateway will be an orbital outpost that will be around the moon, and this will enable us really to do two different things. First of all, to serve as this outpost and a staging area to go down and do these missions onto the surface of the moon. Secondly, it will be a platform to go further when we eventually go to Mars after these initial moon missions. So it really is multifaceted in that capacity. One of the really interesting things about the Gateway is that it will allow us to land on any portion of the moon, not just one, so we can explore a number of different destinations on the moon itself. I think that one of the challenges of constructing it will be that we are constructing something just like an engineering feat that we are trying to construct 250,000 miles away from home. Excuse me, this is one of the main challenges.
Hi, my name is Abby Mitchell, and I am in the 6th grade at Trafalgar Middle. And my question is, who or what inspired you to become an astronaut?
You know, I get asked that question a lot, and I wish I had one moment or one person that I could say always explains it all. But I really don't have that. I started saying I wanted to be an astronaut when I was only 5 years old, and I said it throughout my entire life. I think it's because one of the things that fascinated me the most was the world around me, and I had this inherent curiosity about nature, about biology, about all the things around us on our planet. I grew up in a town with a lot of trees and a lot of forest, and I like to spend time outside exploring. And that just stuck with me. And that exploring, I think that desire to explore went further and further and further. And I always had this idea that I really wanted to be in space, looking back at the Earth and feeling what that felt like, looking back on the Earth with human eyes from the outside.
Hello, my name is Blake Yanko, and I'm in the 6th grade at Three Oaks Middle. My question is, how do you cope with space sickness or space adaptation syndrome?
Well, I was very lucky, and I didn't have any space motion sickness, and I didn't have a lot of that adaptation syndrome where sometimes people feel really quite ill for the first few days after they arrive, and it can be a feeling of malaise or sometimes nausea and vomiting and that kind of thing. And I think, as you know, whenever you've been sick, that is just not fun. So if you are one of the unlucky people that does experience it, we do have some different medicines that we can take to help offset some of those symptoms so that we can adapt more quickly and feel okay to move about and learn our new environment and to start working effectively. And so we have a lot of training on the ground. We have a lot of doctors that support us to prepare us for all of these things, whether it's through medications or just what to expect and having these different countermeasures in place. The great thing about this space motion sickness is that it usually only plagues people for the first couple days after arriving, and then the body, it's really, really interesting to see physiologically how quickly we adapt to this new environment. And people usually feel well after a few days, and they're ready to go about the rest of their mission.
My name is Kayla Walker, and I'm in the 5th grade at Fort Myers Beach Elementary. My question is, how do different countries cooperate with the International Space Station, and what are the strengths that each country brings to the partnership?
The International Space Station is a great example of what different countries in the world can do when we truly work together. And this is one of my favorite things about working up here, is that we have exposure to our colleagues and friends from all of these different countries, from the Russian Space Agency, the European, Japanese, and Canadian space agencies, all working with us as NASA astronauts. And we're all working together as one team. It's really interesting to see how it all comes together. You know, right now, I launched up here on a Russian rocket and a Russian spacecraft called the Soyuz, and that's been our only means of getting here since the shuttle retired in 2011. So that is one of the main elements that the Russians have been bringing to the table for quite a while now, is getting us all up here. Right now, I am in the Japanese experimental module. So this is the module that the Japanese Space Agency funded and designed and planned, and they support the most. I'm looking straight through here at the Columbus module, which is the European module from the European Space Agency. And again, that is their main contribution to the space station. For the Canadian Space Agency, you've probably seen or heard of the robotic arm, the Canadarm that's on the outside of the space station that moves things around, sometimes including astronauts doing spacewalks. So all of these countries represented some really significant contributions that together make us all work together successfully up here. And, you know, that is one of the most enjoyable parts, too. I think you might know from your own experience how much fun it is when you're working with a diverse team of people that have lots of different backgrounds and ways of thinking about it and solving a problem.
Hi, my name is Iwani Ahmed, and I am a 5th grader at Allen Park Elementary. My question is, what are some of the things you see every day aboard the space station? And what are some of the pieces of technology that you use each day?
Well, the space station isn't too big of a place. It's about the inside volume of, for example, a 5-bedroom house. So I actually see almost everything on the space station every day as I go about my different tasks, whether it's just my personal tasks of sleeping and eating, or whether or not it's my work tasks, doing experiments or doing some maintenance on any hardware that we have. So we go back and forth between the different modules depending on what activity we have. At night, we're in our crew quarters for sleeping. We get up when we go to the galley area, which is in what we call Node 1, where we can have our meals. We go to, of course, we have our trips to the bathroom in Node 3, and there's the cupola, which is the best viewing area where you're surrounded by windows looking down on the Earth. And then you have all of these different modules that I just described that the different agencies contributed. Depending on what your task is, you might be in any one of the different modules. Equipment, we rely on a lot of different kinds of equipment up here. You can see I'm using this microphone and this video camera in order to be able to talk to you right now, real time, from the space station down to all of you guys gathered together on Earth. We use laptop computers. They're all over the place, and so lots of different inputs for those. We have power cables and data cables running every which way. We have some specialized hardware. For example, right in front of me, just outside of your view, is what we call the Life Sciences glove box. And I was actually a few hours ago in there doing an experiment with bone cells. So all kinds of different hardware that we use for all the different experiments and maintenance operations up here in the space station.
My name is Andrew Saray, and I am in 2nd grade at Allen Park Elementary. My question is, what are the different jobs on the International Space Station?
Well, that goes really nicely with the last question. And one of the things that I really love the most about working up here is that we all get to do a little bit of everything. There aren't any specialized roles. So all of us do a little bit of everything. So for example, today I did some science. I mentioned I was working with these bone cells, looking at differences in the genetic expression of these bone cells in microgravity. Then later after this, I'm going to be doing some maintenance on one of the water systems that we have to supply water on the space station. Several weeks ago, I got to do spacewalks, doing repairs outside of the space station. I also had the opportunity to fly the robotic arm, that Canadarm I mentioned, from a control center inside the space station. So we fix things, we do experiments, we go about all kinds of different maintenance chores just to make sure that everything keeps working effectively so that we don't necessarily have to fix it. And each one of our days is a combination of all of those things. So it's impossible to get bored because you're always doing something new and different, and keeps it very, very interesting.
My name is Quinlan Connery, and I'm in 7th grade at Three Oaks Middle. My question is, if something were to go wrong medically, how would your crew respond to the problem?
Well, the first thing is that we go through a rigorous medical criteria as part of our selection, so that we try to pick astronauts that are less prone to medical situations and medical problems. The second thing that we do is we receive a lot of specialized training on the ground from doctors and nurses and specialized training personnel to teach us how to respond to any type of medical emergency. We always have at least one person designated as a crew medical officer. I'm very fortunate up here right now because although I've had crew medical officer training myself, my crewmate Drew Morgan is actually a physician. So if something happens to me, he'll be incredibly well qualified to take care of me because of his previous career as an Army physician. If something does happen up here, we have a lot of specialized equipment. We have standard first aid kits like you have at home with Band-Aids and all that kind of stuff. We have equipment for more severe medical injuries too, if something were to happen to our heart and we needed to restart it or do CPR, for example. And if we had any kind of trauma, we have all of the equipment up here that we can deal with that. If there was something that happened that was very serious and we couldn't deal with it up here, or we needed other resources that would only be available at a hospital, the nice thing is that we always have a lifeboat attached to the space station. The Soyuz spacecraft that we came up here in is always docked to the space station when we're up here. So if we had a major medical emergency, we could get into that spacecraft and be down really back on the surface of the Earth in a matter of hours, and then be back into a hospital somewhere. I would say, probably in less than 24 hours we could be somewhere. So lots of different levels of how we prepare, how we train, and the equipment we have up here to make sure that we are ready for any medical situation.
My name is Lucas Chamberlain, and I am in the 5th grade at Diplomat Elementary. My question is, do you think the next generations will travel through and live in deep space?
I think the frequency of space flight and the number of people contributing to this program and to other types of contributions in the space sector is going up and up and up. It's increasing all the time. So I think that there's a very good chance that some of you and many people in your generation will travel to space, or at least to do something else like a suborbital flight, or all of these things are becoming more and more accessible to more and more people as we have commercialization, we have private sector companies that are contributing to space exploration and even space tourism. So I think there is a good chance that you'll see more and more people up here, maybe even some more permanent establishments in the future.
Our names are Terry Lennon and Betsalina Delva. We're in the 5th grade at Allen Park Elementary. We're deaf, and we are communicating with an interpreter. Our question is, can a deaf person become an astronaut? And if not, what other jobs can a deaf person do that involve space exploration?
Well, right now, we don't have any deaf people that are active astronauts, but this is changing and medical requirements are actually changing all the time. A good example of this is vision. A lot of people think that astronauts have to have perfect vision in order to get selected. That's actually not true. It used to be true in the very beginning. The first astronauts did have to have perfect vision, but now you can even have corrective surgery and still become an astronaut. So as we know more, as we have more sophisticated medical practices, perhaps as newer equipment is developed to help offset some of these disabilities, you never know what is possible. I mean, even just looking at me up here, we also didn't have female astronauts in the beginning. So things are changing and getting better all the time. I think the best thing to see is that all of us at NASA really do realize that diversity and inclusion make a better team. If we can have a diverse team and we can include everybody on this mission, we will have not only a more enjoyable one, but also a more successful one. And this has been proven countless times in the workplace, in many places down on Earth as well. But you also don't need to be an astronaut to contribute to the space program. And I would say the most important people, even though we're the ones on camera and we're perhaps the most visible face of NASA, the really important people are the ones that are on the ground. All of the thousands of people that are working on the International Space Station program right now, supporting this very event, supporting everything that we do, they are the ones that are enabling everything that we can do up here. And there are jobs at NASA ranging from the janitors that clean the hallways, to the people that work in the food courts, to the engineers designing the spacecraft and space system, to the scientists designing experiments. You name it. Anywhere, we have a role for really almost anyone if there's an interest to work in the space program.
Hi, my name is Tisha Patel, and I am a 5th grader at Allen Park Elementary. And my question is, on the Artemis mission, will NASA send a new lunar rover to the moon?
Yes, there are plans for a new lunar rover. I think in the Apollo missions, we realized how much this helped us and enhanced our exploration. We can explore much further if we have a lunar rover versus just moving around on our own. So this is the plan for Artemis as well. And actually, recently, NASA just put out a call for proposals for various companies to submit their designs for a lunar rover. So that should be coming to us, and we'll know more about the rover soon.
My name is Oren Philpott, and I am in 5th grade at Allen Park Elementary. My question is, what conditions will we face to get to and live on Mars?
The conditions that we'll face to get to Mars are similar to those that we face for all of our spaceflight for exploration. The biggest one that's really still unanswered and that we need to have more knowledge for before going all the way to Mars is radiation. We also have isolation and confinement, just being in weightlessness, how this affects us, how this affects our bodies, the distance from the planet, isolation and confinement. All of these variables are very important, but radiation is still that big player. The dose of radiation that we'll receive in going to Mars is quite high, and so this is still an active area of research that we'll really need to make sure we have good systems in place in order to protect both our equipment and to protect us as human astronauts.
My name is Allie Johnson, and I am in 5th grade at Allen Park Elementary. My question is, what was the most dangerous or unexpected thing that has happened to you in space, and how did you handle it?
Well, during my spacewalks, I actually had a couple unanticipated things happen where my crewmate that was out there with me in one of the spacewalks, her video camera assembly that was on top of her helmet actually came detached and fell off during the spacewalk while we were outside. And this was something that is not supposed to happen. There isn't a good way to be able to mount it outside when you're already in the suit. So we had to think quickly, we had to work with our ground team, and we had to get that into a safe configuration. And that was something that we really didn't expect, we hadn't trained for, and something that the most important things and lessons that we remembered all throughout our training that carry through in everything that we do up here were to remain calm, to develop a plan, to talk to the ground around, in this case, to let them help us develop a plan and then to execute that. And we were able to do that. It was a bit unnerving at first to have something like that happen actually during a spacewalk, but we were able to adapt to it, and we still maintained a safe config, and we were able to continue through the entire rest of the spacewalk, even though she didn't have those lights and the video camera attached to her helmet like we normally do.
My name is Riley McGowan, and I am in the 5th grade at Colusa Elementary. My question is, what is it like eating space food, and what is your favorite space meal?
We actually have a whole lab at NASA at the Johnson Space Center that is developing new food items all the time. And the diversity of different food items up here is really astounding. Not only the NASA-provided foods, but we also have foods from the Russian Space Agency, from the Europeans, Japanese, all of our different contributors. And the array is really impressive. I really like a lot of the newer foods that our lab is developing. And there are some exotic things like Turkish fish stew and Indian fish curry and Brussels sprouts and kale and all of these things that I eat often on the ground. So we have a huge assortment of different choices up here, and it keeps eating a lot of fun. Probably the aspect that's the most fun though is that everything floats. So you can, toss M&Ms over to your friend on the other side of the module, and it can be a lot of fun.
Hi, my name is Colton Thomas, and I am in the 5th grade at Allen Park Elementary. My question is, since supplies are not easily replenished, how does the water on the space station last such a long time?
Well, we have many different sources of water, since, of course, water is so important to make sure that we have enough to keep ourselves healthy and for other uses in the space station as well. And I think one of the most interesting aspects about our water is that we actually a lot of it we obtain from recycling our urine. So through these different processes to reclaim water, through our urine and also by collecting the condensation in the atmosphere, we can actually reclaim about 85% of the water that we use. So we have a saying up here, yesterday's coffee becomes tomorrow's coffee, because we have a whole processing rack that can take our urine and purify it so that we can then drink it again as water.
Hi, my name is Charlie Bush, and I am in 2nd grade at Allen Park Elementary. My question is it harder for girls to become astronauts?
Well, I would say that the good thing is that these days it isn't, because we represent almost all different kinds of people up here. Men, women, people from all different backgrounds. And that really is nice that we have such a more diverse crew of astronauts than we did in the very beginning. And as women and as men, we are held to exactly the same standard. So it's just as hard as it is to become an astronaut for me as it is for my male colleagues. And that's something, when we get up here and we all work together, there really isn't a difference between any of us in those regards. So it's a great thing to know that you can really do anything you want despite your specific background and where you came from and what you look like.
Dr. Meir, thank you for your time. We wish you a wonderful rest, your mission aboard the space station.
Dr. Meir, thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Lee County. It has been wonderful answering your questions today, and I'm sorry I didn't make it through all of them, but I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and it's been wonderful having you up here. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes our event as we count down to 20 continuous years of humans living and working on the International Space Station.
Thank you to all participants from Lee County School District. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.